Hola, muy buenas. En el programa Energía al Máximo hoy seguimos hablando de la energía nuclear. La vez anterior tuvimos una conversación con la directora general de la Asociación Nuclear Mundial sobre la colaboración internacional y el rol de la energía nuclear en el futuro escenario energético. Hoy me gustaría que podamos resolver algunas de las dudas sobre los temas que preocupan a muchas personas y probablemente ustedes sois alguna de estas personas. Haremos las preguntas con relación a la seguridad, qué progreso se está haciendo en la tecnología nuclear, qué aportan los nuevos reactores, cómo se trata el tema de residuos nucleares, qué competitividad puede ofrecer la producción de la energía nuclear. Puede sonar esto muy complejo. Estoy segura que nuestro invitado hoy nos podría hablar en forma simple sobre estos temas complejos e interesantes y sobre todo compartir con nosotros su conocimiento. Cuando el sector energético tiene cuestiones técnicas y económicas y cuando la política se apodera de ellas, los temas se repiten mucho en prensa con titulares alarmistas, es bastante fácil hacer afirmaciones que no tienen relación con la realidad. Esperamos que nuestro invitado hoy comparta con nosotros este conocimiento y la información más actualizada de los desarrollos nucleares. Bueno, ahora tenemos una conexión muy especial con el principal coordinador del sector nuclear francés, al que le vamos a hacer preguntas técnicas y preguntas generales. Y para eso voy a tener que pasar al inglés. Hervé Maillart, hello.
Good evening.
Very nice to greet you. First of all, I would like to introduce your broad and rich experience for the general public. So, Hervé Maillart, he is head coordinator of French nuclear sector. Since March 2018, he has been director of nuclear coordination in direct contact with the chairman of the French nuclear sector for the National Council of Industry. Hervé Maillart is also Secretary General of the University of Nuclear Skills. Between 2015 and 2018, Hervé Maillart was VP for International Relationships of the French nuclear fleet and chairman of different committees on standardization in the field of peaceful applications of nuclear energy and nuclear technologies. And previously, he was Group Nuclear Assets and Business Manager within the EDF, which is Électricité de France, the group which provides gas and electricity, involved in the management of 88 nuclear reactors worldwide. Until 2013, Hervé Maillart was involved in nuclear operation as director of the Nogent-sur-Seine nuclear power plant, and he was responsible for international teams and carried out several expert missions in the design of nuclear reactors in China, Russia, and Germany. So, a very broad and rich experience, and we have several questions for you because, as you know, energy is translated and informed. The issue is not only always about energy, but also lots about another aspect. And we would like to understand in the nuclear energy debate, those who now oppose its use often refer to nuclear waste disposal as one of the biggest disadvantages, as it is harmful, of course, to people's health and the environment. The waste needs to be managed properly. However, many questions about this still remain, and what progress has been made in the recent years on the storage of radioactive leftover fuel, and what are the potential new long-term solutions in review to store nuclear waste?
Yes, thank you very much for inviting me this evening. I would like first to discuss about volume, about the nuclear waste, because if we consider the weight, in fact, not the volume of nuclear waste, in France, each person produced 13 tons of waste per year, and only 2 kilograms of nuclear waste per year. So the volume of the nuclear waste and the weight of the nuclear waste is very little compared to all other waste. On these 2 kilograms, there are only 5 grams that are very active, very radioactive. So this is the first comparison, first figures that we have to have in mind. So the question about the storage of this nuclear waste is not the same compared to other waste. In France, we are working on several possible solutions. The first one is to reuse the active waste in the actual nuclear power plants with a fuel called the MOX, mixed oxide fuel. And we are working on some project to reuse, in fact, several times the mixed oxide fuel in the actual power plants to reduce the volume and the weight of this waste. On a longer term, we will also work on what we call Gen 4 reactors or fast breeder. There are some fast breeder in the world functioning, and we have some projects. They are paid, they are financed by the French government up to 500 million euro to develop the technologies that will be used after probably 2050. In order to reuse all the waste and to reduce the activity of the waste and to produce energy. It can be electricity, but it can be also steam for industrial. It can be produce of hydrogen, not directly, but via several chemical transformation. So we are working on this, and obviously we are also developing the CGO project in order to store the active waste under the ground in the northeast east of France.
Okay, thank you very much. And another technical question is about most of the world's existing reactors, and of course in France also are of generation 2 and 3. And despite variations in age and design, most of these reactors have one thing in common: they all use water as a coolant. And so this increasing use of reactors, dependence on water, is making them vulnerable to climate change. How is this water problem addressed today?
Yes, in fact, there are several types of water cooling for the nuclear power plants. If you are on the seashore, obviously the question is not the same. If you are on a river, on a small river or on a big river, there are both situations in France. On the seashore, so you can use salted water, obviously seawater, and in the next years we will not face a decrease seawater, and so we will build. You know probably that in France the government has made the choice to launch 6 new reactors, and the 4 first of this reactor will be located on the seashore. And so for the third, in fact, the 2 last, the 5th and the 6th reactors, we will build them in Bugey on the Rhône river. The Rhône is quite a big river, and we are studying, in fact, the different technological solution in order to reduce the use of water. When a nuclear power plant is on a river, we are taking water out of the river. We have some big towers, aéro-réfrigérants, to cool the water, and then we put some water back to the river. So if we consider all the situation in France, we are using only 3% of the water than we take out of the river. We have the objective to reuse the water locally, because we can reuse this water, for example, for some treatments, local treatments, and we are also working on the fact that we want to reduce the water that we use on each power plant. I can advise the person that are interested by this figure. We will produce in the next weeks, maybe next month, a technical document explaining for each situation in France how we'll handle all these actions.
Okay, thank you. There is also broadly supported opinion that nuclear large reactors are inflexible, and this can cause grid congestion, the opposite of what is needed to accommodate right now large proportions of wind and solar power in European model flexible grid system. what is the room of flexibility of these modern large reactors?
In France, there are different technologies, and the situation is different in each country, because some countries have a lot of wind and a lot of windmills or solar panels. In France, we are working with the flexibility of the nuclear energy since the beginning, in fact, of the nuclear fleet, and so our reactors are able to change the power production, very quickly and very rapidly to be adapted to the renewable energy. And we have to say that in the next years and in the next decades, we will have to decarbonize the economy. France and most countries in the world have chosen to have a global neutrality, carbon neutrality in 2050, some countries in 2060. And to be carbon neutral in 2060, we have to decarbonize, obviously, the cars with electric cars and houses with better isolation for the houses. But we have also to decarbonize the industry. And we cannot imagine, for example, steel production, glass production, or chips, electronic chips production, and they cannot stop their production when there is no wind or no solar. So we need basis production in each country. It can vary on the country, on the situation of the country. But we need what is called base load production. And for the best decarbonized base load production for the moment is nuclear, whatever the country in the world is. And I will advise you also to look at the conclusion of the COP. I was at the COP at the beginning of last December, and the COP has recognized that the nuclear energy is one of the solutions, in fact, to decarbonize the economy in each country in the world. And some countries, in fact 22, have signed an agreement saying that we have to develop the nuclear energy in the world, about the tripling of the nuclear energy produced globally in the world. So I accept and I understand the question about the possibilities that we can produce electricity with wind. I know that in Spain you have a lot of solar farms, but the question, in my opinion, is really for the industry, because the industry needs a lot of electricity. If we want to decarbonize a steel factory, it uses really a lot of energy, for the moment coal or gas, and we have to decarbonize with electricity. For the moment, it can be only done with high production, electricity production, like nuclear power plants.
Yes, this is absolutely very interesting that you say that after this COP conclusions, but even before, with all these Franco-German discussions all this year, of course, this is like a renaissance of nuclear, but not of the nuclear industry, of the interest for the nuclear energy. And also one of the questions of the general public, and also pretty much in the media, at what stage in the is the development of the new small medium reactors, and what advantages do they represent as a really an innovative reactor in this sector?
Yeah, it's a very good question. Yes, there are different types of reactors for the moment. A lot of countries, a lot of industrials are very interested about small and modular reactors. We will, in the future, we will need both, because a big reactor like we will build in France can produce 1,600 megawatt on 1 kilometer square. So, and it will produce electricity. And for some use, for example, for some industrial use, there are some needs about the production of local steam or local heating. And so this local use can be provided by small and modular reactors. In France, so the government is financing the development of those small and modular reactors. And we will work in the future about the use of that we can do with these reactors, like, for example, producing hydrogen, producing local heating for industrials, also recycling the fuel, as I said before, the nuclear fuel. And so this reactor will be with a power of, let's say, 1, maybe 10, less than 100 megawatt compared to the 1,600 megawatts for the big reactors. But they will be installed locally near the industrials, near the cities, for example, if we need to give power for a city. And this is a French situation, but a lot of countries that have very big landscapes are very interested about the small and modular reactors because they can avoid also to develop very big and very long grids connection. A grid connection is quite expensive, quite complex if we discuss about a country with several thousand of kilometers of distance, like South Africa, like Canada, like Russia, obviously. They have also already one small reactor. And so the use are not completely defined yet, but we are working on several use. Not only electricity production, but also some very local help for the people living near the reactors, the cities or the industrials.
These are already competitive, so they are all still require innovation and progress.
They still need innovation. This is a very interesting question to work about their needs. For example, with new steels to sustain, to resist to molten salt, or to new pumps, new technologies. And in fact, the competitiveness of those reactors are due to the fabrication, because when we are discussing about large reactors, we will build maybe one per year, or maybe a little bit more than one per year. If we discuss about the standardization for the small and modular reactors, we intend to produce maybe 10 or reactors per year. So there is a scale effect. This is the first effect. And we will also standardize the components, and we have the intention to use off-the-shelf components as far as it is possible, because in a nuclear power plants, we are not obliged to use only nuclear-graded components for some functions. For some parts of the power plants, we can use some off-the-shelf components, and so we will reduce the price. So we have the objective to have exactly the same price for the electricity for these small and modular reactors, for the new art project, for example, in France. But if we are discussing about the direct use of the energy not going through electricity, the ratio, the efficiency of this reactor will be higher, because for some technical people that here are listening to this interview, on the secondary part, when you use a turbine, we lose 50-60% of the energy to produce electricity with a turbine and a generator. If we use directly the heat from the nuclear part, the efficiency is far better.
Okay, and probably last question on the innovation. Also, many publications about the reactors of the generation 4, and it seems that they are more efficient. Is it true? Can you elaborate a little bit about it?
Yes, the generation 4, I will not say more efficient. They can reuse the fuel, the used fuel of the nuclear power plants. That is a very big advantage. As they can recycle the fuel for the existing plant, they will have a very long long life for the fuel. So they reduce the mining impact. As far as we can reduce the footprint of any energy of any industry in the world, it's a good situation. So some of the small and modular reactors I was talking about are Gen 4 reactors. We will see in the next decades how they are more efficient, or how these reactors, Gen 4 reactors, can be introduced in an European electricity system, French electricity system, or the world electricity system. But I will not say they are more efficient. They are more efficient on the fuel. This is true. But there are for the moment, no reactor in the world that are functioning on this recycling capability. For the moment, the fast breeder, the Gen 4 reactors that are working in the world are working like the other reactor, Gen 3 reactors.
Okay, I would like to just come back to the point that you raised, and I think very important, on the needs of decarbonization, need of decarbonization to decarbonize energy-intensive industries. And it's true that several ministers of EU countries, like France or Hungary, are warning that without a radical increase in nuclear capacities, the competitiveness of the EU cannot be improved, and the energy security cannot be guaranteed, and climate goals cannot be achieved. So what are the main factors that will determine nuclear capacity competitiveness in mid and long term?
Yeah. We are in France, as we are relaunching the nuclear industry, we are working on this question. In fact, to build a nuclear power plant, if I simplify, but I like to simplify, we need three things. We need people to build and to operate the nuclear power plants. So we have to train people from the scholar system, for welders, for operators, for electricians, and so on. We need the capability to produce the components of the reactor vessel, to produce steam generators, and so on. So we need an industry. And the third thing that we need is financing. Concerning financing, we have to take into account that the price of the nuclear energy is due at 70% by the investment. Why it is this figure? Because when we start to build a nuclear power plant, a large one, we will operate it after, let's say, 8, 7 years, maybe 10 years. And so the price of the capital is very expensive for a nuclear power plant. So if we can guarantee that the money, for example, with some guarantee from the government, some guarantee from the banks or national banks, international banks, this will reduce the price of the capital and reduce the price of this 70% of the price of the electricity. I don't want to compare, but if we look at this figure, for example, for the gas production, the price of the gas energy, gas electricity is due at 70% by the price of the gas. So if you double the price of the gas, it will mean that your price of electricity will raise a lot. So that was we have seen several 2 years ago. So the main program that we are developing in France, and the responsibility of my team is to write this program and to propose this program to the French government and to discuss this program, to validate this program with the French government, is working on these three pillars: for having the people, having the industry, and having the possibility to guarantee some financing coming from the government.
Competitiveness also, do you think that nuclear sector can give this level playing field also to major production of hydrogen as also one way of decarbonization?
We are looking at this question. I will not say yes or no today. We have some technical challenges to behind us to answer this question. We can produce hydrogen with the electricity produced by the nuclear power plants. The question when we are doing that is that we are not taking the best of efficiency, because to produce electricity, as I explained, we will lose 60%, maybe more, of the energy produced. So we are working on some question in order to produce hydrogen with better efficiency, using less electricity and using steam and using heat directly coming from the nuclear, in order to increase the efficiency. So this question, for the moment, I will say there are a lot of programs, a lot of research made on this subject, but in my opinion, the question is not solved completely now. I hope it will be completed in the next years.
Okay, and I just also come back to your words that you say you like to simplify, and I think this is the key to understand all these nuclear things, because sometimes it seems so complicated, but there is still a desire to understand. And this is my question, that why historically in France the society has been supportive and in favor of nuclear power developments, despite main and human common safety concerns. And of course it's not the case in other European countries like Germany or the neighboring Spain. In your opinion, what are the main reasons of this support at national level?
Yes, I have to say that after the Fukushima event in 2011, the opinion in France was not as favorable as today. In fact, at this period, in 2015 up to 2020, people were in majority not favorable to nuclear, at approximately 60% not favorable to nuclear, and much more favorable to renewable and so on, or to gas, for example, in France. And after the recent events, the COVID crisis, showing that we have to rely on local energy, local productions, and obviously the Ukraine situation, that when the price of the gas rised a lot, up to more than 100 euro or 200 euros per megawatt hour. In fact, the situation in France is that most people now are in favor of nuclear, and we are communicating a lot about the fact that nuclear is a must if we want to decarbonize completely an economy. I will not say a word about different countries, because each country has its choice. Obviously, I think the French choice are the good one. But now the situation in France is favorable, but it has not been the case several years ago.
Okay. Hervé, thank you very much for sharing these views and this so rich experience, technical opinion on all these questions. It's very important. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup pour partager cette vision avec nous.
Merci beaucoup. Thank you very much.
Esto fue la conexión con Hervé Maillart, Head Coordinator of French Nuclear Sector. Hemos hablado de temas técnicos. Si queréis escuchar luego, os invito, porque ofrece una visión única, y también sobre la perspectiva francesa del desarrollo nuclear, de esta energía nuclear y la importancia en la descarbonización y en la seguridad de suministro para Europa. Bueno, el tema de energía nuclear es interesante e importante para la sociedad. Y si hemos conseguido transmitirles conocimiento para que podáis sacar vuestras propias conclusiones y a lo mejor algo de pasión por los temas energéticos, estaríamos más que satisfechos con este resultado. Podéis compartir con nosotros sus preguntas o dudas en los comentarios debajo del vídeo y os contestaremos en las siguientes emisiones. Os deseo muy buena energía y hasta pronto.